being stupid or feeling stupid is not your fault unless it is a result of willful ignorance. Good day, everybody, and welcome to this week's episode of Monday Morning Moments with Mark. I hope this finds you well. So, as you saw in the open, this week we're going to talk a little bit about stupidity and ignorance and why one may not be your fault and the other one should never happen. But before we get into all of that, let's have a little bit of comedy moment and talk about the funniest thing. So, the funniest thing that happened this week was yet another hilarious moment with my good buddy Josh. And if you wonder why he keeps appearing on this segment of the show, it's because when we get together, we have such a good time and we laugh about things until our faces hurt. So, to put a little bit of context to this one so that you can understand the line that I say at the end of this is actually the closing line of the book Forrest Gump, which the first book, Forrest Gump and then Gump and Company, the series, is something that we have both shared many laughs about over the years of drawing correlations between funny things in the book and references to real life situations. And this is just another one of those. So we were sitting around talking, and I don't actually remember the full context of the story that preceded me saying this to him, but it was some wild imagination analogy of a harebrained scheme to run off to some third world country or something of the sorts. Anyways, I told him, I said, "Hey man, did you ever get your will updated?" And he goes, "Nope, sure didn't." And I said, "Okay, great." That's it. But I need you to make an addendum to it so that me and your brother, although I don't have to argue, although I'm sure he won't, about getting your tombstone to say, well, at least I ain't led no humdrum life. And he sure hasn't. So anyways, in keeping with another quote from the Forrest Gump series, stupid is as stupid does. So let's talk about a little stupidity today. I have an issue with this word because it's come to have such a negative connotation, and I want to do a little bit to kind of take that back. First of all, stupid is not, or being, feeling, whatever, stupid is not your fault unless it is a result of willful ignorance. Let me say that again. Being stupid or feeling stupid is not your fault unless it is a result of willful ignorance. I'll explain more on ignorance in a minute, but let's look more at the word stupid. Talk a little bit of etymology on the word stupid. So, stupid, being stupefied, which why is being stupefied okay, but stupid not? That's a whole nother conversation for another day. But being stupid is actually a response to astonishment or amazement. It's the like I said, the response to that. So, for example, let me give you an example of when you have probably felt stupid and it was completely not your fault. And as a teacher, I have lived this scenario, and as a student, I have been on the other side of this scenario. So imagine you are sitting there, and the teacher, professor, whomever, instructor is up there discussing something, and they are way over explaining this as if they are talking to the same people that sat through the classes that they got their college degree in about this, and you are just sitting there like looking stupid, right? Probably feeling stupid too. That's not your fault. That person needs to bring that down to a level that is understandable with the available information and level of education that already exists in the room. An example I had of that, however, unless there is an example of willful ignorance, and another classroom example that I've had is once, and I'm sure all my teacher friends, anybody that's ever led any instructional anything, has had this happen to them, where you tell all the things and you say, "All right, does anybody have any questions?" Nothing. A couple minutes goes by, somebody asks a question, and I've done this. I said, "Why didn't you ask that question when I said, does anybody have any questions?" I said, "Let me guess, you didn't want to look stupid in front of your peers." "Yes, sir." "Okay, do you want to look stupid or do you want to be stupid?" What I was really saying in that instance was telling that student, are you choosing to remain ignorant? Because that's what they're doing by not raising their hand, is willfully choosing to remain ignorant. So in that case, they were responsible for feeling stupid. But let's talk about ignorance. There's two kinds of ignorance. First of all, ignorance of any kind is a choice, and you should never choose to be ignorant. The first type of ignorance is ignoring available information, whether it be conscious, subconscious, or unconscious. And I'll explain each one of those, but it's basically conscious ignorance of available information is just a refusal or a belligerence, and I'll give you a good example of that in a minute. Subconscious ignorance or ignoring available information is kind of like overcompensating for the information you already have available, so you just sort of like disregard the available information. And then the third one is unconscious ignorance of available information. You don't know that the information exists, and in reality, that should never happen in today's day and age. For the most part in modern society. I'm sure there's some examples out there, but generally speaking, there really isn't any reason to remain unconscious, completely unaware of the idea that extra information exists out there, unless you literally have lived somewhere where you have no internet access and you've never heard of Google, then that's a whole different situation. But in modern society, pretty much, the availability of living in the information age, that shouldn't happen. Let me go back to giving you an example of the first two types, though, of conscious or subconscious ignorance of available information. Directions. So you get this, what's something? Oh, a desk like this one, right? That has these elaborate step-by-step instructions. But because you saw the picture on the box, you're like, I don't need those, and you throw the directions to the side. I promise you, having lived that your conscious or subconscious ignorance of available information is going to leave you feeling and probably looking stupid when you don't know how to put your desk together. I speak from experience, people. The second kind of ignorance, and we could debate which one is actually worse, but in reality, you should never aspire to be ignorant of either type, is ignoring the lack of knowledge altogether. So again, conscious, subconscious, or unconscious ignoring of the lack of knowledge. In the first one, you act like you know. Consciously, you say, I don't have a lack of knowledge. You act like you know, but in reality, you are completely uninformed of whatever the topic is. The subconscious one form of that is actually the more it's kind of the rougher version of it, because you feel like you know. So when it's exposed that you don't know, right, you think you know, and then when you realize you don't, that's what creates that feeling of stupid, because you thought you knew. And then the last one is, just unconscious ignorance of a lack of knowledge. You don't know that you don't know something. You have no knowledge of its existence in the world, and that's okay sometimes. That's where they talk about ignorance being bliss. You don't even know it exists. Who cares, right? So I say all of that because those are critical elements to not make stupid decisions, is to not remain ignorant. When we're making decisions, you have the opportunity to gain this knowledge. I myself last week made an ignorant and what I felt to be a stupid decision because I did not educate myself on a medical procedure I was about to have. And afterwards, I'm like, how did you not look this up and know more about this? You are ignorant. I said that out loud. And I was, and I had, somewhere between subconscious form of thinking I knew I knew about it, or overcompensating for the limited information I had. I remained ignorant, and it wasn't the greatest decision. So it is what it is, and I encourage each of you to go out this week and seek out the knowledge. Be informed. Don't remain ignorant so that you don't end up feeling stupid. Have a great week.